Holy shit, it's been a long time since I've done something like this. Anyways, as most of you know, Disventure Camp Season 5 just premiered around 30 hours ago as of making this video. And so far, there has been a lot of positive reception about the episode, which I so happen to agree with. Disventure Camp Season 5 Episode 1 is a pretty decent episode in my opinion. Not one of the best in the series, but still a good episode nonetheless. But even with this being the case, Episode 1 still has some noticeable issues that almost no other Disventure Camp episode has, which kind of makes the viewing experience a little worse in my opinion. So in today's video, I am going to review Episode 1 of Disventure Camp Season 5 and give my thoughts on it. The good, the bad, and everything in between. Anyways, with that being said, onto the video. I'm gonna skip around here as the introduction for the episode is kinda boring. Not necessarily because it's bad, but because not much here happens, cause it's just the opening. I will say I really like Emily as the new host. She has this stage presence to hurt hat prior hosts like Derek and Crystal to an extent didn't really have, which makes her stand out. Also on a side note, am I the only one who thinks the intro for this episode sounds kind of different than the official intro they posted a few days ago? Like something about it just sounds different. Anyways, moving back to the episode's introduction, where we see the fans introduced and something confessionals. Going into this episode, I wasn't super hipped for Bruno, but after this episode, I really like him. He is such a dork, and I do find him being overly cocky in the opening is pretty good foreshadowing. And Evie is amazing this episode, and she is hilarious. This confessional that she has on screen here is a pretty good example of that. He really hopes she doesn't get out early. There isn't too much to say here because the pacing during this introduction is basically Sonic speed, which I'll touch back on later when I go into things I don't like about the episode. Anyways, the fan favorites introduction is alright. Again, not very interesting because it goes by stupidly fast. But I will say Benji falling was pretty funny, and it was nice to see ONC acknowledge the Benjinators. Also Finn, respectfully, that is a married man you are simping for. I am gonna need you to chillax a bit, LMAO. Also, I find Aubrey hating Alec because he's a cancer and not because he's a neglectful parent to be kinda funny. Anyways, that's pretty much it. This introduction segment is fine, but it is way too fast in my opinion. Like, I get that Odd Nation cartoons kinda needs to go fast because they have 24 characters and only a certain time limit for episodes. But it still doesn't change the fact that this episode is very fast paced, which does hurt its overall quality overall. Anyways, moving on to the challenge, which is in my opinion, sort of a mixed bag. This challenge is pretty good. It's the same challenge from Episode 1 Season 1, which I think was really cool. Not only because doing a callback for a season like this is a very good idea, but also because I like the paintball challenge overall. First off, the PRE challenge interactions between teams are pretty solid. I do think that the fan favorites probably shouldn't have been as chummy as they were though. Now, I'm not saying they needed to start beefing and fucking killing each other because that would be stupid. But I feel considering that majority of the people on this team don't know each other, agreeing to a plan probably shouldn't have gone this smoothly. But this scene overall is pretty good. I really like how Tom was able to play as the team's leader here, and him and Anastasia clocking Alec was funny. And speaking of Tom, this is a very good episode for him. Going into this season, I wasn't super hipped for Tom, but this episode definitely went about my expectations for him, and I like how he was able to help his team win the challenge a lot here. And he had some pretty funny dynamics with the rest of his team, which kinda makes me excited to see what he's gonna do next. Anyways, moving on to the fans, which they were predictably a mess, which I think was the right call as it really showed how inexperienced these guys are compared to the favorites. And watching them all bicker was entertaining, mostly on Neura and Junior's end, as their bickering was pretty funny. I am not the biggest fan of Neura because she did complain a bit too much for my liking, which while is the entire point of her character, can be a bit overbearing, but I really like when she and Junior interact. Also, Ernesto trying to get everyone to listen to him only to be immediately overshadowed by Bruno was pretty funny. Anyways, moving on to the actual challenge, which wasn't all that interesting as it could have been, and I mostly say that because the screen time distribution for this section is completely fucked, and this is the main complaint I have about this episode. Now, I'm not going to act like balancing 24 characters in one episode and making sure they all get equal screen time is possible, because at ISNT, and it would be unrealistic for me to expect for everybody to get equal amounts of screen time. However, I do not think the way Odd Nation cartoon handled the screen time distribution here was very well. As a lot of the characters are overshadowed in this challenge part. Ernesto straight up doesn't get any screen time here. Nura gets one line about Junior and Ren, which was kinda funny. And a lot of the characters just don't do anything. My main example of this is Spencer, who has 2 lines this episode, and he didn't get his first line until half of the episode was over with. And I don't think I need to explain how that is not a good thing. I'm just hoping that this issue become less prevalent as the cast shrinks down, and while I can give Odd Nation cartoons some leeway here, given how this is only the first episode, and once again, balancing 24 characters in a 28-minute time frame is basically impossible. But even with that in mind, it still doesn't excuse how badly the screen time distribution for this challenge and episode overall is handled. Anyways, enough with me being negative, and back onto the episode and what happens in the challenge. The opening scene with Alec and Phil strategizing is pretty decent, and overall I'm excited to see what Alec and Phil do this season. Given how they are completely out on the outs and are being targeted by the Cyan Alliance. They don't really have many scenes in this challenge because they immediately get jumped by Aubrey and Sam. And speaking of Aubrey and Sam, I liked their dynamic during this challenge, and the trio with Oliver, Aubrey, and Sam was really funny to watch. Even though it didn't end well, which I'll talk about more later. Moving on, I really liked this scene with Eli and Benji. Granted, it's pretty short, but I still find it's pretty cool. My current prediction is that these two are going to be swing votes on their team and form a friendship. And Manu and Bruno's interactions in this episode were really cool, and this scene on screen right now was pretty funny. Moving on to the next scene with Junior and Ren, which by default I really liked. Granted, I'm biased because Ren and Junior are my 2 favorite contestants this season. But you also because these two had a really fun dynamic, and seeing these two just be silly was fun to watch. I'm really hoping we get to see more of them over the season. Also, we got to see Ren's eyes for the first time, which was cool. Also, I've already made a short on this, but this scene between Natalia and Ren is much funnier when you take into consideration that Ren and Alessio share the same voice actor. Anyways, moving on to the main climax during the challenge where the Cyan Alliance jump Finn, ARA, and Evie, which I will say this scene was pretty cool. Only problem is that if WHI are being realistic here, ARA just standing there while the 4 of them assembled like the fucking Avengers was very stupid. Like she had a gun, she didn't run out of ammo. And this sense lasted 20 seconds. She could have just shot all 4 of them. Granted, this is more of a nitpick than a complaint, but still, it's a bit cartoony, which is a bit of a dumb complaint considering this is a cartoon, but it still feels a bit unrealistic. Anyways, moving on to the next scene between Rosa and Anna, which I really liked. And I like what they're doing with Rosa this season, and I think it's a pretty good direction to take for a character like her. Given how Rosa has mostly been a support character, giving her an arc where she feels like she has to help everyone or feels like she doesn't need help is a pretty good setup for an arc. Also, speaking of Anastasia, I really liked her in this episode. She's a lot more calm and reserved compared to season 4, but she's still willing to throw hands when necessary, which is shown in her stopping Junior from winning immunity and her beefing with Alec in this episode and in the intro, and overall I'm excited to see more of her. Anyways, in conclusion, this challenge was pretty good, but kind of undermined by the not very good pacing and unbalanced screen time distribution. Anyways, moving on to the elimination segment, before I get to the post-challenge interactions and elimination, I am going to quickly cover the twist scene between Alec and Evie, which was pretty funny. And this scene further affirmed to me that Evie is an amazing character who needs to win Season 5 and is the best Disventure Camp character of all time. Okay, that's a joke, but still I love Evie, and her not paying attention to anything Alec says is absolutely hilarious. Anyways, moving on to the post-challenge stuff, I think the interactions are mostly fine. The main highlight of these scenes is obviously Evie, but I've already made it clear how much I like her, so I'm not going to dwell on it, but the other interactions are fine. Seeing Bruno continue to trip over his own feet, while funny, still makes me feel bad for him. I really hope he gets his get back soon, because bro is already being turned into a punching bag on day 1. Also, if I can say this, also can I just say, the way Nura reacted to Bruno telling her about his boss kinda pissed me off, like there's being sarcastic, and then there's grilling people over nothing. And this scene more so comes off as Nura being an asshole to Bruno instead of her being actually funny. Also, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and in the fandom go, oh, why do people like MK and Gwen but hate Neura even though they're the Basilissi the same characters, who complain a lot and basically do the same thing. And I'm sorry, but the people who are doing that are kinda missing the point. Unlike Neura, MK and Gwen both have positive interactions with other contestants, and while they are sarcastic and do make jabs at other people, it isn't their main definable trait. Neura has not had a single positive interaction with anybody in this episode, and every scene she's in this episode is just her complaining, grilling somebody for little to no reason, or just being sarcastic, which while is funny, does feel a little bit overdone as it's the only thing she does in this episode. This is probably a bit continuous or poorly explained, which is why I'm planning to make my own video going deeper into this topic, but that's for another day. Anyways, moving on to Elimination, which I think was handled pretty well. I was already spoiled on Aubrey going out, so it wasn't that shocking, but in the moment I was a bit surprised, considering I thought she was going to make it far. But after watching the episode, I am not surprised that she got out, because she completely deserved it, and if I'm being honest, she had it coming. I mean, for fuck's sake, she was treating people like Satan reincarnated just because of their zodiac sign. And her going after Sam, while with the power of hindsight, was a good move in theory, given how Sam is a long-term threat. The way she did it was very stupid, and she deserved to get out here. Her elimination overall was handled pretty well. I will say that the elimination was a tad bit anticlimactic, but that's not really a good complaint, and Aubrey crashing out at the end, just for everybody to be extremely confused, was pretty funny. Anyways, overall this elimination was pretty good, and deserved in my opinion, and Sam's confessional at the end really intrigued me, and I'm excited to see how he's gonna play the game. And the episode ends out with the reveal that there is a comeback for this season, which I think is fine, but kinda worries me about the future of this season. As there is going to be basically no non-elimination episodes due to huge cast size and due to there being a returnee. I don't think Aubrey is going to have a high chance to return, but if she does, she's probably going to try to take out Sam again. Anyways, with that all being said, let's just get to the conclusion of this video. In conclusion, Disventure Camp Season 5 Episode 1 is a pretty good episode. It has some pretty good interactions, a decent challenge, and some exciting character arcs set up for the episodes to come. However, the episode does a very poor job when it comes to pacing and overall screen time balconing, which I do hope will get better as we deeper in the season. If I had to rank this episode, I think I would give it an 8 out of 10. Anyways, that's all I really got. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and if you did enjoy it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you never miss another video from me. And join my Discord server link down below. Doing that supports the channel and makes editing and producing very long videos like this more sustainable. Anyways, that's all I really got. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in my next video very soon. Peace out. Take care. Bye bye.